Okay, so we kind of did some mouth work and got that kind of doing something or another. And so let's attempt the eyes. So I'm gonna pop in the front view here. You can see they're kind of kicking out already and doing all sorts of weird stuff. But let's X-ray that. There we go. And I'm going to backface call this side just because I can't really see what's going on. So let me hide the grid as well. That'll help. And BC button. There we go. And what we want is maybe let's just let's get this a bit more centered. The typical thing. Okay, so I'm going to have to X-ray the camera. Let's put this above the nose. Let's see where it is in the side view. Yeah, so it's like, it's not quite the same, but if I put this sort of where the nose is touching, that actually matches pretty well. And that's going to be in the center of the eye, which doesn't really match in the side view, but we're going to go by the front view for the eyes anyways. So we'll ignore side view for a bit. And what I want is I want to define where the bridge, well, he doesn't really have a bridge of the nose, but where the bridge of the nose would be. So I'm going to insert an edge loop for that. So Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. And I'll just click and drag on this edge and it'll stick one in about there. Q to exit the tool, just click off. So it'll backface call those new ones. And you can see it just cuts, but doesn't actually add anything. So if we look in perspective, it cut each face, but it didn't really do much of anything all the way around. So what I do sometimes with this is just to help things along, I'm going to re-grab that loop I just put in. I'm going to hit R for scale, and I'm just going to scale it up slightly. And you know, maybe in the front view it become a bit more obvious. So that's what it was before. When you insert an edge, it just cuts a face. It doesn't do anything to help the silhouette. So by scaling it from the middle, you can see I can get it to kind of round, or at least flatten and round off. You don't want to go too far because that's going to put a crease in the middle of his head. But if we can kind of get it to do something, that's going to save us a lot of work because there's a lot of verts around there to start adjusting. And then if we look in the side view, I pretty much want these to be level with the border edge. So maybe what I'll do is I'll transfer them forward. And then you got to watch the back here because now the back is kicking in. So maybe it needs to scale just a bit. And then let's see what that looks like in perspective. So yeah, a bit of a kind of a bum head there, but better than nothing. Easier to work the border edge. So, and then we've got like a little divot for his whatever that thing is under your nose. So all in all, excuse me, not too bad. So, right, so back to the front, what we wanted to do was to define the bridge of the nose. So let's pull that in, because that's we want to do it like we did with the mouth and kind of define a region. So that looks about right. I don't know, perspective, I think. What do we got going on here? That one can probably kick out because that's looking a bit weird. So let's W, left mouse click, component, and pull that on the normal. So we're trying to get a better silhouette going on there. Same with this one. Let's kick this out. So this is kind of almost like you would think his cheekbone. Is it? No, cheekbone's down there. Huh, maybe we need to insert some loops. So let's do that. So I want to define the upper and the lower region of this eye with a loop. So let's do that. So let's go Edit Mesh, Insert Edge Loop, or Mesh Tools. I'm going to put one in just above his eye here, and I'm going to put one in sort of under the eye, but also you can see that's going to be the middle of his nose. Now what we did before was we kind of arranged the faces and did all that kind of stuff, I think. Let's do one at a time. So this one up here I just added, maybe undo, there it is. So let's select it, hit Q. Again, it's not doing anything to help with the silhouette. So I'm just going to, if we scale it up, it's going to cross the center line. So we're going to have to re-grab the mid-verts and re-snap them. So that's this one right here. So W needs to be in world space for the snaps to work. X, I'm going to snap it over and snap it back. There we go. So that straightens that edge out. And then maybe let's do some adjusting, because as we know, we want these to be kind of averaged. So let's pull these down. And this can probably go in a bit, in a bit, in a bit, out a bit. Yeah, I don't know, not much more I can do, maybe up a bit. And you can see they're already trying to do their job, which is kind of, we want them to go around the eye, kind of like we did for around the mouth. And I'm going to do one along the bottom now, so Mesh Tools, insert edge loop, cut around the bottom of his eye. And again, we're going to probably have to come in and scale this up because it just cuts each face. So let's grab that edge loop, I'm going to scale it up slightly, and then I'm going to need to take the two verts on the border. I do not want to select one, and let's follow that around 2, and I'm going to resnap those, so X over and back. That can actually come down. It's kind of kicked up a bit. That can come down. That can go up, down. Okay. And let's adjust on the side view. So spread these around. This is still where the ear is, but this can come down, bit behind, bit behind. Let's adjust these down, down. Let a bit of a twist there. This can come down, down, down. Spread them out. Oops, left a point behind. Z. Still left a point. Oh my goodness gracious, what's going on here? Backface culling I get? Yeah. Alright, so I have backface culling on here. I've got to turn that off. So back to object mode. Backface culling is off. And let me fix these verts here before we go much further. So that's what was happening before. Okay, so now we should be able to yeah, see the border edges. So those come down, this can come over, up. Cool. All right, so now we've got some points here. So that's like the cheekbone. So let's look in perspective. So that should really be sticking out. So I'm gonna hit W, left mouse click, component, and I want to pull these out. Just to get some, might be a bit drastic, some structure here. And yeah, that can come out. It's looking all right. Okay, and let's look back in the front view. All right, backface cull again. See what I mean by turning it on and off all the time. So we kind of defined this region here. So middle of the nose, middle of the eye. This can come out. This can come down. All right, so let's make a loop. So what we did with the mouth is we kind of just pulled these points in and kind of called it a day. But what we're going to do this time, let's just adjust these a bit more. Cool. Okay, so what we're going to do this time is we're going to use the multi-cut and we're going to create our own loop. Or we could probably extrude faces as well, but let's use the multi-cut. So Mesh Tools, multi-cut. I'm going to start sort of on this edge to get closer because otherwise, there we go. And then I'm going to cut up here and into the corner. And then I'm just going to hit enter and keep going. So I'm going to cut across into the corner, enter, new one, down, down, into the corner, enter, across, and his nose is kind of in the way, but let's assume really big eyes, and then close it up. So what we've done is we've created a loop. So we sort of define the region, the upper brow and the cheekbone and all that, and then we just cut around to create this circle. And what it does do here is, I mean, this is really it's going to be the eye hole. I mean, we've traced around where his eyeball is going to go. So we don't really have to do too much more for that. We can pretty much delete those faces. So I'm going to hit Q to exit the tool, and I'm going to select the 4 faces in the middle for his eye hole, just like we did for the mouth, and just delete them. Bingo. So now we have Homer eye holes, and we need to fill them with something, so let's fill them with some eyeballs. So I'm gonna, what am I gonna do? We really should, yeah, let's do NURBS. I'm gonna create a NURBS primitive sphere. I like them for eyeballs. They're just a bit rounder. They're not going to be the final eyeball for the rig or anything like that. They're just going to be sort of stand-ins. So, and I want to position them roughly where his eye hole is, and then I'm going to use this perfectly round sphere, his eyeballs, and then I'm going to use that to help construct some of the bone structure around his eye. So let's go in the front view. Let's get this sphere. First, let's do a 90-degree rotation on X so that the sort of pupil, if you will, or the pole is facing towards us. And then we can just move that sort of into the center of his eye hole. And then in the side view, we want to do the same thing. So let's sort of center that. And I'm going to turn wireframe unshaded on so I can just see what's happening here. So let's center it. And then let's make it bigger. His eyes are big. So, and then, you know, if we got to adjust it back or forth or up or down a little bit, we can do that. And then do the same in the front. The front actually looks pretty damn close. So I don't know, let's into perspective and see what we've got. So now we've got these ginormous eyeballs kind of floating around in here. So maybe it's time to build a little bit more structure for his eyes. Maybe a bit bigger. And if that's going to be his eyeball, you can see where it doesn't quite look right, and that's, I think, mainly because of the structure of the face. This 3/4 view here, like it always looks good from the front, always looks good from the side, because those are the 2 references we have. But we don't have a 3rd dimension reference. This angle between the front and the side always very flat. So we have to build that back up just by either, if we had a maquette or something, or a 3D model we could look at, we could do that. But we'll just kind of wing it here, and I'm actually going to maybe move that a bit further over. Cool. Okay, so I want his other eye, and maybe what I'll do is we'll put a pupil on there, but we'll do it with a texture. So now that the eye is kind of roughly positioned and stuff, I'm going to freeze transforms on that. Delete the history. This is going to be the left eye ball geo. And I'm going to right mouse click on that. So let's pull that up to the top of the camera. So right mouse click, assign favorite material Lambert, color channel, map it. We're going to choose ramp this time. We're not going to map a file here. We're just going to do a ramp. And the ramp is black and white, and you can see that it's going around from white to black. So white to black. So that's the wrong direction. So change the type of the ramp from V to U and flip these colors. So black goes to the back, white comes to the front. And there we go. So now we can see we've got like a black dot in the middle, and if you just crank the white in, you're going to get, and then bring them really close together, right? You're going to get a sort of Homer sort of dot. And his eyes actually, they're not dead center, but for now that's something. And I want to have the other eye. So what we'll do is we'll select the eyeball. We're going to group it, so Control G. And then we're going to duplicate this group. So group 1. We don't need to name it because we're going to get rid of them in a second. So Control D to duplicate that group. So that's group 2. And then go to the scale X and make that -1. And that'll throw you out a mirror image of his eye to the other side. And then in the outliner, what we can see is we've got these 2 groups. Select both of them. Freeze transformations on those. Eek. Take the left, this black eyeball, go to surfaces in your menu and say reverse direction. And I think we have to rotate it 180 degrees. And why do we spin it around? Yeah, this is doing some weirdness. Anyway, 180. Let's just get this working. Okay. And then we can just take these two groups. Well, let's name the eye because this is actually the right eyeball. So let's do right eyeball geo. So now we have right eyeball geo, left eyeball geo, and then we can take these two groups and then go to the edit menu and just say ungroup, and that will ungroup them, and we're left with the two pieces of geo sitting there, which is fine. And I'm going to put those in a display layer and just call these eyeball display layer. Save and reference, just so they don't move around now that we've got them positioned. So that's what we're saying are Homer's eyeballs. So we're ready to go now with shaping this eye a bit. So what I do is I just take this open border and I want to kind of enclose his eyes a little bit because I think they're a little bit too big, I think, maybe a bit. So I'm going to grab the verts and just hit W. I'm in world space and I'm just going to push those back or forward depending on what we're trying to do here. So these definitely going to go back. And that's definitely going to go back. That really does not want to grab the vert I want. Straight back. That one's about right. I think both of these actually are going to come forward a bit just because it's kind of crazy how much his eyeballs exposed. This one though, yeah, well, let's do world space, why not? And so now the ones that are kind of going around like these, I'm going to actually switch my move tool to component, and I'm going to kind of pull those in the direction they're already going. So that's going to be like the bony structure around the brow of his eye that we kind of saw in the 3D reference. And just trying to create some structure. I can maybe go back. And remember, we're dealing with the border edge. We want to use world space, so we'll have to move these in 2 dimensions if needed. Man, kind of getting there, I guess. That's where his nose is going to come out. Actually, let's not move that too far. And I'm going to take the border edge. So double click that. And I'm going to extrude. So Control E to extrude the border edge. Maybe just hide the eyeballs for a minute so we can see what we're doing. I think I might just scale them in a little bit because there was an awful lot of space. So I'm just going to hit R for scale and just scale those in slightly. And then let's see what that does for the eyeballs. So maybe even a bit more. So kind of want to close up this, any kind of gap we might have, so it's sort of literally sitting inside the eyeball. So that's going to be my first extrude, and then another one, Control E. This one's going to go straight back. So again, I'm just going to hit W this time for move, and I want to just push this back. It creates a bit of thickness. And then I want to tuck it sort of back and under. Oh, there's a hole there. So another one, Control E, and this time I'm just going to push it in the Z-axis, and what that'll do is it'll give me, if we fly in here, it's just going to tuck it back and under. So now we've got some thickness and some depth, and that should work. The backface culling's on, so that's why it's doing some weirdness there. Oh, yeah, and then don't let it penetrate through. So maybe just hit R for scale. Oops, that didn't work. R for undo. There we go. And just scale those in so they don't sort of stick out. Or we could also just translate them slightly off to the side for now. There. And so we're left with something kind of like that. And that's going to give us kind of all the structure I think we're going to need. We still need to do some tweaking and stuff like that, but again, we've created concentric rings, and we're now, we can loop around here as many times as we need to create whatever structure it is that we want. So let's just pretend. I'm just going to try something. So insert edge loop. If I click in here, sure enough, I can go all the way around. And if I need to use that to create kind of structure for the eyeball, or I can rotate that, or whatever needs to be done to help sort of structure his brows and whatnot, we can do that. Not that I'm going to do that right now, just to show you. Okay, so bring the eyes back. And then object mode. I like my edges hard. So we're getting there. We got some brows for him. Basic structure's kind of there. Let's unproxy or unreference the proxy half so we can select both sides and hit 3 and see what we've got. And we've got kind of a noseless Homer, and you can see we've got some issues with the border edge here. We've got a bit of, got a hole in the back there. I need to resnap some verts. But it's kind of coming along. I mean, big bulgy Homer eyes, pretty close. Again, the structure's there. We just need to spend time tweaking it. But last thing we're going to do is the nose, and then maybe a bit more brow work. And then maybe what I'll do is, I won't do it on camera, but I'll spend some time tweaking some verts around, not adding anymore, just repositioning them, and then come back with a final look at the model. Okay, so same thing. I'm gonna just hit 1. Gonna reference my proxy half. I'm gonna delete the history, and I'm gonna save it out.